Hey guys, in this video we're making this beautiful braided wire bracelet. This design has a simple hook and loop clasp. We've used beautiful freshwater pearls for our design today. You can use gemstones or whatever other beads you have. It's quite a simple braided technique. You can see here I've made a ring as well to make a matching set. So these braided bracelets are a really cool technique to have in your wire wrapping toolkit. We're using beautiful freshwater pearls today. They aren't all exactly the same size, which I love. So you might want to size them out and just get ones that are similar. Mine are about 8mm wide. The wire we're using for this project is a 20 gauge dead soft silver wire. And we need one 30cm length and one 70cm length. So we just measure and cut both of those lengths. Now, starting with the longer piece of wire, we place the ends together, following it back down to the middle and making a small bend in this spot. Gently working these wires down straight. Now placing our round nose pliers right in the middle there and bringing this bend down nice and small, so it's a small loop on the end. Now with our round nose pliers, grabbing near the base of that loop and bending that wire down straight. And again on the other side as well, bending that wire so that our two wires come down next to each other and we've got a little loop on the end. Working with your wire until they sit nice and straight next to each other and your little loop is in the centre. Now we're doing a 3-strand braid, so we need to just add this extra wire onto our bracelet. So making a wee bend on the end of our shorter wire, we hold it just underneath that loop and we're going to bring the tail around the loop to secure it in place. So just holding it there and bringing it around nice and tight with my pliers, wrapping upwards, so that it comes round a couple of times and sits nice and tidy. Making sure to keep your loop nice and straight on the end. Once I'm happy with it, I lift that tail end up and cut it short, crimping it down so there's no sharp edges. Whichever side you crimp that down on will be the inside of your bracelet. So this might be enough loops around, but if you want to, you can bring this bottom end of your wire around as well. I like at least 3 or 4 loops around so that my wire is nice and secure, crimping them together so they look nice and tidy as well. So we've got our nice tidy loop on the end for our hook and loop clasp. This wire here is already coming off to the left, so I'm just leaving that there and gently spreading the other 2 wires out. Now it's time to place our beads on. So depending on the size of your beads that you're using, we need about 6 or 8 beads on each wire. It does depend on how tight you pull the weave in your braid as well, so it's better to have a few extras on there and then you can always take them off at the end. Once you've placed your 6 or 8 beads onto each wire, place a little bend on the end of your wire so that you don't lose your beads off the end. Now we can move on to the braiding part of our design. So it's a very simple 3-strand braid. You probably know how to do these braids. And we always use the bead in the center position, so on that middle wire. So slide all the beads down except for one bead in the center position. So making sure that's right up close to the top. And we're starting with the right side wire first. So bending this wire around the bead and into the middle position. Now bending the left side wire around the bead into the middle position. So that's one full stitch. We're going to again bead on the center wire. So sliding one bead up on the middle wire into that starting position. Now bringing the right side wire around the bead into the middle, and now the left side wire around the bead into the middle. Gently working with the wires to actually bend them around the bead, also keeping in mind that you want your bracelet to sit nice and straight. Again, sliding one bead up that center wire, right side wire across to the middle, making sure it's nice and straight. And left side wire across to the middle. Now on this middle wire, sliding another bead up to the center position. So we just continue this same braid, right side wire into the middle, making sure it's sitting nice and straight, left side wire into the middle, and then sliding that bead up on the middle wire. Right side wire into the middle, left side wire into the middle, and sliding that bead up the center wire. Now just continuing on until your bracelet is at your desired length. I usually braid down about 17 or 18 centimeters, and then with our hook and loop clasp it ends up being about 19 or 20 centimeters in total. Just take your time working with your braid, making sure it's nice and straight and sitting uniform the whole way along. Once you've braided down to your desired length, we're ready to make our hook for our clasp. You can see mine here, I've beaded down to about 18 centimeters. This means with the hook it will be about 19 centimeters in total. Now just bringing our wires out in the direction they're already coming, so they're sort of out of the way, we're going to place our hook onto the center wire. So to start, I want this wire coming straight up the middle. So with my pliers, I'm just gently bending it over and then upwards so that it comes straight up the center. Now measuring along from the end of our bracelet, about 2 centimeters, grabbing that 2 centimeter mark and bending our wire back around against itself. So bringing that wire back down, making sure this is a really nice small loop and the wires are close together. Now if there's any tail left at the bottom here, we want to cut that off, so we don't want our wire hitting the bead. So cutting it off just so that these wires can come down nice and straight. Now we're going to wrap these other wires around the hook to lock it in place. So bringing this first wire around the base of our hook, making sure to bring it around nice and tight and tidy around both of those wires on the hook. We really want to lock it in place. We don't want these wraps to be too bulky. And just check on this end, whichever side you cut that tail off inside, we want to cut it off on the same side on this end as well. So just cutting that short, crimping it in tight. Now bringing this last wire around on top of the other wires there, nice and tight and tidy. Trying to match it up with that first end as well, just so it looks nice and tidy. Cutting the tail off on the inside of our bracelet and crimping it in tight so there's no sharp edges. Alright, so that is the whole bracelet part of our design. Now we just need to start forming our braid into a bracelet shape. So gently working with your wire to bend it so that the hook and loop sort of come together and it forms a bracelet shape. Once it's in this position, we just bend our hook so that we can hook it through the loop on the other end. So with our round nose pliers, grabbing just over halfway along the hook and just rotating it around to bring those wires around for a hook shape. You can take your time now working with this little hook. I bend the tip up just a little bit so that it hooks on to the loop okay. You just want to work with it and then test it and make sure it hooks onto the loop nice and easily so that you can hook it on and off. You can check over your whole bracelet as well, make sure you're happy with how your wires are sitting. And there's your beautiful beaded braided bracelet.